As a college student, what do you think it would be like to have been involved in one of the most controversial studies ever conducted? The Stanford Prison Experiment by Katarina Bush. The Stanford Prison Experiment was conducted between August 14th of 1971 to August 20th of 1971. It was a 2-week psychological experiment where Professor Philip Zimbardo led a study which recruited mostly college students to participate in a simulated prison environment where participants could be either guards or inmates. I would like to take this moment and let you think for a moment. What do you think you would have chosen if you were given the choice? Would you have chosen to be a guard or an inmate? The assignment was done randomly, as with the toss of a coin, to make sure that the prisoners and guards were comparable to each other at the beginning of the experiment. It was clear that abuse of power from a person in the position of trust was an issue. In just 5 days, there was psychological abuse that was deemed to be brutal. Fun fact, I was recruited into corrections when I was 21 years old, and I worked death row and men's maximum security for the state of Wyoming. The ID shown is an actual ID that I used. Is abuse of power a real issue? In my opinion, it can be. In real life, I didn't see much to the extent that the Stanford Prison Experiment did. I would cite lack of knowledge and training could be why it didn't portray more closely with a real prison environment that we see today. The Stanford Prison Experiment was expected and supposed to last for 2 weeks, but was ended on just the 6th day. The study was funded by a government grant from the United States Office of Naval Research to study antisocial behavior. Another fun fact about the prison experiment was that from more than 75 people that responded, 24 students were ultimately chosen. 12 were chosen to play prisoners, while 12 were chosen to play guards. The students that participated had no prior record of criminal arrests, medical conditions, or even psychological disorders. The rules below were read twice to all prisoners. Before the second reading, a guard told the prisoners, "Prisoners are part of a correctional community. In order to keep the community running smoothly, prisoners must obey the following rules. Number 1, prisoners must remain silent during rest periods, after lights out, during meals, and whenever they are outside the prison yards. Number 2, prisoners must eat at meal times and only at meal times. Number 3, prisoners must participate in all prison activities. Number 4, prisoners must keep the cell clean at all times. Beds must be made and personal effects must be neat and orderly. Floor must be spotless. Number 5, prisoners must not move, tamper with, deface, or damage walls, ceiling, windows, doors, or any prison property. Number 6, prisoners may never operate cell lighting. Number 7, prisoners must address each other by number only. Number 8, prisoners must always address the guards as Mr. Correctional Officer and the warden as Mr. Chief Correctional Officer. Number 9, prisoners must never refer to their condition as an experiment or simulation. They are in prison until paroled. Number 10, prisoners must be allowed 5 minutes in the laboratory. No prisoner will be allowed to return to the laboratory within 1 hour after scheduled laboratory period. Number 11, smoking is a privilege. Smoking will be allowed after meals or at the discretion of the guards. Prisoners must never smoke in their cells. Abuse of the smoking privilege will result in permanent revocation of the smoking privilege. Number 12, mail is a privilege. All mail flowing in and out of the prison will be inspected and censored. Number 13, visitors are a privilege. Prisoners who are allowed a visitor must meet him at the door of the yard. The visit will be supervised by a guard. The guard may terminate the visit at their discretion. Number 14, all prisoners in a cell will stand whenever the warden, the prison superintendent, or any other visitors arrive on the premises. Prisoners will await an order to be seated and resume activities. Prisoners must obey all orders issued by guards at all times. A guard's order supersedes any written order. The warden's order supersedes both the guard's order and the written rules. Orders of the superintendent of prisoners are supreme. And lastly, number 16, prisoners must report all rule violations to the guards. Results of the experiment. There were many results, but perhaps the most important was simply this. The simulation became so real and the guards became so abusive that the experiment had to be shut down after only 6 days rather than the original 2 weeks that were planned. The Stanford prison experiment inspired a movie. Though, in the actual experiment, guards and prisoners were prevented from carrying out acts of physical violence, such as those that were shown and portrayed in the movie. In addition, the study ended differently than the movie did. Zimbardo later apologized for the suffering that took place during the Stanford prison experiment. He authored the book, The Lucifer Effect, and wrote, "I was guilty of the sin of omission, the evil of inaction, of not providing adequate oversight and surveillance when it was required. The findings came at the expense of human suffering. I am sorry for that, and to this day, apologize for contributing to this inhumanity." This can be found in The Lucifer Effect, page 181 and 235. The abusive behavior portrayed by the guards was deemed based on the situation and not based on their personalities.